Running around big open cities, stealing cars, shooting people, doing all the bad stuff. Look, whether you're doing the crime or fighting the crime, or maybe a little bit of both, these are, in our opinion, the definitive open world crime games. Some of the best of all time. We tried to narrow it down to 20. It was really tough, but stick with us. Let's get started off with number 20. We're keeping it light at the start with Lego City Undercover. Look, this game released quite a few years back now at this point, but ever since, it's been incredibly underrated. It's not the only Lego game to do like an open world style thing, but this really good creative spin on the open world crime genre is great. You're essentially like a hotshot super cop, and you have the freedom to do whatever you want. If you like the Lego games and just like, their sense of humor, their vibe, the floaty feel to them, but you add in a dash of good car chasing and action, Lego City Undercover really just hits all the right notes. I still am always so surprised, like I don't see people bring this one up enough. This was actually originally just a Wii U game in like 2013 or so, but then a couple of years later, it got ported to all the other consoles, and that's when people got to really see just how good it was. It was from Traveler's Tales. They knew what they were doing with these style of games, but we're still hoping at some point maybe we get a sequel. Never say never. Next, over at number 19, the True Crime series. True Crime Streets of LA and True Crime Streets of New York were janky, busted, weird, cheap feeling games, even at the time, but they were still just really damn cool. They emphasized a good feel, like a really good city design. It kind of really emphasized some authenticity, just like with how the map worked. But then the authenticity really kind of ended with that, where now you're just running around, drop kicking anyone you want, arresting whoever you want. It really did a good job kind of aping crazy movies of this similar style, where you're clearly a cop, but you're a little crooked and you have the freedom to do whatever you want. This was released in the time of GTA clones, and it's not the best, but at the time, like us, if you were younger and you were itching for more open world Grand Theft Auto crime things, some of the shooting mechanics and combat mechanics they had, specifically in True Crime Streets of LA, it really did satisfy that hunger, at least temporarily. Looking back, no, these games haven't aged the best, but we're still just grateful for all the fun times we had in it. Next, over at number 18, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered. Yeah, I mean, look, if we're talking open world crime games, we gotta talk about this because essentially it's cops and robbers in an open world. Yes, obviously there were a lot of races you would go to that were sequestered, but roaming around the open city was a ton of fun, and getting into those pursuits still to this day amounts to some of the best, most tense, sweaty racing we've ever experienced. The Need for Speed Hot Pursuit games are great, and Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered specifically is just a hell of a good time. It's still available if you want to check it out and see what's up. You absolutely should. Next, over at number 17, switching gears a little bit with Police Simulator, Patrol Officers. This is very much one of those PC-based Steam simulator games, very much hardcore emphasis on the simulation, but it's a game where you get to, essentially live the life of a police officer, and that comes with all of it. The exciting stuff, the making arrests, the chasing down subjects, but also basic stuff like traffic incidents and pulling people over. So it was really going for that whole strict feeling of like just emphasizing regular old police work simulation. These sandbox style areas, there was like 3 of them or so, lets you kind of get the feel for different neighborhoods and get into all kinds of weird hijinks. It's definitely not for everybody because it's not really very chaotic or anything like that. And this is one of the ones where, while it is a crime simulator, you are on the side of the good guys. It's still definitely a unique experience. And for the sake of really rounding out this video and covering all the bases, we had to mention it. Now, over at number 16, something totally from left field, Far Cry 5. Think about it. It is kind of like an open world crime simulator. There's all kinds of chaos. Well, technically, you're like a US Marshal going in to stop this crazy cult. Just seeing all the chaos, all the crime going on around you at all times, just made this game really good. Look, when it released, it had its flaws. It's definitely not a perfect Far Cry game, but for the sake of just open world hijinks and running around and stumbling into a band of crazy cult members and getting into shootouts, and then they hop in a truck and chase you down, you never really know what's going to happen next in this one. Plus, out of all the Far Cry games, this one had a distinctly American feel taking place in Montana. It just managed to make this Far Cry game feel different, considering from Far Cry 3, they've all felt very similar. Now, looking back in hindsight, Far Cry 5 is probably one of the more distinct ones. Next down at number 15, Schedule 1. This game has gone viral, it's sweeping the nation, people are loving it, specifically because it's simulating you just being a drug dealer. It's a sandbox style game, there's plenty of freedom in it, but essentially it's you manufacturing, packaging, and selling drugs and trying to grow your empire. Along with that, you can get into police shootouts, you can deal with NPCs, mess with civilians, it's got all that stuff, but in a really interesting style. Yes, it's cartoonish. At a glance, you look at it, it looks pretty simple, but it's got a lot of charm to it. The drug dealing mechanics are fun. You know, being a crime guy is fun in general if you want to cause even more chaos. And even though it's only in early access, the game already just has a lot going for it. If you jump in and play it now, there is plenty to keep you busy. Next at number 14, we have the Watch Dogs games. You know, they all have their own level of crime, so to speak, but it is exactly that type of thing. You know, the crime open world game thing that you really think of when you see a list like this. You're running around a big open world city, you're stealing cars, doing whatever you want, you're punching civilians in the face, you're getting in police chases. Watch Dogs really has all that. Even with its flaws, these games are really cool. The fact that it is like a Grand Theft Auto, running around a city, getting into shootouts and stuff like that, but also the technological element added on top of it just makes it feel like its own thing. Hacking people's phones, hacking ATMs to steal money, getting in police chases and then hacking bridges and, you know, traffic lights and stuff to screw up the pursuit just really make these games an excellent playground for some fun crime. I think I'm specifically talking more about Watch Dogs 1 and 2. They both really have their own great moments, to be completely honest, with Aiden Pierce in gritty Chicago and, you know, his quest for revenge, and then Watch Dogs 2, a little bit more lighthearted, but a lot more just to do in this open world. The Watch Dogs games are certainly underrated. They definitely have their flaws worth criticizing, but when we look back now, years later, all we can do is remember them fondly. Next at number 13, we have The Getaway. The Getaway is absolutely incredible and does a great job simulating the kind of, you know, mid-90s, early 2000s London crime thriller. It's a really story-focused game. You come across all manner of gangs with your character formerly being involved with the mob, and just when he thought he was out, he gets pulled back in. You know, you've heard it before, but here you get a full open-world London playground to explore in, and at the time, this world felt incredibly realistic. Looking at it now, yeah, it's just gray and bland, but this game really just felt incredibly unique, highly cinematic, no UI, really minimalist, but it had some good cops and robbers, police chases, a couple of really cool, notable shootouts, and memorable characters. The Getaway 2 had a lot of interesting stuff as well, but it was unfortunately a really buggy mess. But I will always stand by the fact that I think the original Getaway game is an all-timer and a PS2 classic for sure. Next at number 12, sticking with PlayStation classics, the Driver series. Now, the Driver series isn't always open world, sometimes it's more sandbox based, but depending on which game and the degree of freedom, either way, this just is a really unforgettable franchise. Unfortunately, it's starting to be forgotten because we haven't gotten a new Driver game in a very long time, but this series often let you just live out your criminal driver dream. As the game's subtitles suggest, you're often the wheelman more than anything. While the later games involved a lot of running and gunning, ultimately, most of the time, it's about the thrill of the chase. These chases heavily inspired by 60s and 70s crime thrillers. Honestly, man, to this day, there's nothing out there quite like the Driver games. From the humble beginnings of the first game to the GTA clone failure that was Driver 3, to the game eventually going into different time periods like the 70s, more on foot combat, stuff like that, to eventually the final Driver game, Driver San Francisco, letting you be a ghost that just zips around and possesses any car you want. It's a weird history, but a storied one, and we're grateful for all these games, flaws and all. Next over at number 11, we're going back to a more simulation style game with Thief Simulator. This released a few years back on PC, and essentially it simulates you being a common thief, scouting out a neighborhood, using your binoculars, plotting entry points, and then stealthing in and stealing stuff. The game isn't completely open world, like you're not driving cars and stuff, but it is sandbox style, dropping you into different neighborhoods for you to essentially try and find the best mark, find the house with the best stuff, steal some TVs, steal some cash, steal some jewelry, and get out cleanly. It was actually fun as hell and kind of reminded us of like older school games like Deus Ex or Thief, and it actually had some surprisingly good stealth. Like I said, it's a few years old at this point, but it still feels like a modern game, and there's a lot to it, from driving around, taking your loot to then pawn it off, dealing with the police being called. There's a surprising amount of depth and surprises to this one. Next at number 10, LA Noire. LA Noire is heavily story-based, and while you yourself are not the criminal running around causing crime and chaos, you are an investigator. You are an LAPD detective, and it's up to you to explore this beautifully recreated old-school Los Angeles, interrogate suspects, make your deductions, get in some shootouts and some car chases. This game really, really is just something else. Its noir influences it wears heavily on its sleeve. The performances, while the faces look goofy now, the actual actors' performances, the voice acting, it's all really great. The story is surprisingly compelling with an ending you probably won't forget. It's an exercise in mood, atmosphere, and tension all around. And again, it does feature a really beautiful city to drive around in. If you like police work and interrogations and a bit of old school noir, LA Noire might be your thing. In fact, I'm actually surprised you haven't played it yet.
Stay in cover.
Next at number 9, we have Scarface. Believe it or not, they made a Scarface movie tie-in game, and it was actually pretty awesome. It's full of zany open world hijinks and explosions and carjackings, and it's just really cool. Essentially, this takes place after the events of the Scarface movie, with Tony Montana surviving the attack at the end of the movie. And it's up to him to essentially build his crime empire from the ground up once again. And what you get here is very much a GTA clone, yeah, but with its own zany, wacky spin. You can literally drive a convertible in this game and shoot an RPG while driving. It's incredible. Plus, the guy who does Tony Montana's voice here is no Al Pacino, but he does a really damn good job. The game had some solid open world third-person exploration and shooting. Plus, there was this whole mechanic where you could go into crazy Tony Montana mode. He had a balls meter, and when this meter fills up fully, and when he has enough balls, you can essentially go into rage mode, where he runs around saying, "Say hello to my little friend," and you get infinite ammo, and you're more invincible, and it's crazy. They don't make them like this anymore. This game would not exist today, but it's really cool. We had a good time with it.
Get out of my vehicle!
Hey, why don't you give me a call, okay?
Down.
1029, check for stolen vehicle.
You ugly. That's your crime. I don't need that shit in my life. You don't fuck with me, I don't fuck with you.
Next over at number 8, we have The Godfather. Yeah, coming off the Scarface game, this is very different. This game had a lot of respect and reverence for its source material, and it kept things pretty straightforward, with you joining the Corleone crime family at its peak, working for Don Corleone himself. All the families are involved in New York City, and it's up to you to rise from like a low-level enforcer up to a big-time boss. You make your own character, you roam the streets in 1940s New York, you force business owners to pay you, you rob people, you beat up goons. For the time, this game was really, really cool. There was a sequel, The Godfather 2, took the exploits to Miami and Cuba and was more centered around actually building up your crime empire. It wasn't as good as the first game, but still, these games are special, and it's another example of games I just feel like we wouldn't see today. We still get movie tie-in games, sure, but nothing quite like The Godfather.
You ain't gonna scream, are you? Come on,
deserve this.
Do it.
Next, over at number 7, the Yakuza series. Of course we had to mention it. You're a guy in the Yakuza, the Japanese crime family. There's a lot to these games, and honestly, the series has really gone beyond just the Yakuza thing, but all the inner workings of these games center around Japanese crime families and your role in them. You tend to wander around these open worlds of Kamurocho, and you get into all sorts of hijinks. You can engage in fun mini games, you can build an empire, you can go to bars, go to restaurants, you can chat with women, and you can beat up lots and lots and lots of dudes. Don't expect an open world crime game where you're driving in cars at high speeds and shooting dudes. No, this is more ground level stuff, street level stuff. And I think that in particular is what makes these games so special. Not to mention the fact that it's often centered around Kazuma Kiryu, one of the most interesting main characters we've ever had in video games. These games are just truly something special. If you have to start from like the remake of the original Yakuza game, or better yet, Yakuza 0. It's incredible. Next at number 6, we have Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, we're talking about Red Dead Redemption 2 specifically because you're in a criminal gang. You're doing way more crime stuff. You're doing heists, you're robbing banks, you're robbing trains, and it's all told with a really incredible and subtle story. But this open world game is massive and gives you the freedom to be whatever kind of criminal cowboy you want. Maybe you're polite, maybe you're pleasant, maybe you toe the line, or maybe you're just a dastardly evil man, tying people up on train tracks, robbing people, beating up everybody for money, getting drunk, getting into bar fights. You really can do whatever you want here. It's got the staples of something you'd expect from Rockstar Games, the people behind, Grand Theft Auto. You can get wanted, people will come after you, people will hunt you down, and it's just fun to get into shootouts because it's all based around pretty realistic shooting and movement. It's all very deliberate. It's not super arcadey. It's more focused. John Marston from Red Dead Redemption is absolutely awesome, and I gotta say, the main character of Red Dead Redemption 2, Arthur Morgan, is right up there. They're two legends, if you ask me. And just kind of going for the ride in Dutch's gang and seeing how these people live off the land and do whatever they can to scrape by is just really cool to see. Honestly, though, we've talked Red Dead Redemption 2 to death, so see our other videos. Let's move on. Now down at number 5, Sleeping Dogs, one of the best to ever do it. We've talked about a lot of games on this list where you're a good cop, bad cop, towing the line, crooked cop. Nothing does it better than Sleeping Dogs. The undercover cop Hong Kong action game is unlike anything else on this list. An open world Grand Theft Auto style game, sure, but focused around good hand-to-hand combat, really tight car chases, and really good violence. Plus, it tells an interesting story with a solid and likable main character. It's a good campaign length with just enough stuff in the open world to keep you interested, keep you engaged for a little bit more, but it's not filled with like a bunch of filler and busy work. Sleeping Dogs is excellently paced, great controlling, tons of fun, and now I really want to go replay it. That's the pain of making these videos sometimes, is that you talk about something and then you go, oh yeah, I remember that game. Now I gotta replay it. So it's not just you guys watching, it happens to us too. Now at number 4, the Saints Row franchise. What once started as a straight up GTA clone with the first game, it really developed into its own thing. It got weirder and zanier and crazier, and people love these games for different reasons. Some people like the antics of Saints Row the Third, or the one where you're the president. Other people like Saints Row 2, where it kind of towed the line perfectly between just being a criminal and getting a little zany. Either way, we're so glad this series exists, because it can't just be all Grand Theft Auto all the time, right? Saints Row really carved out its own place in the pantheon. Fun controls, memorable moments, but also a ton of customization, really building out your own character, your own cars, and just going hog wild. It's a shame that this series is now unfortunately dead. The last game was a dud, the last gasp, so for now, it seems like Saints Row is on ice, but all we can do is hope that maybe one day it returns to glory. In the video game industry world, I'd say never say never.
Damn.
Oh, that was my kidney. Nice view.
Now at number 3, Cyberpunk 2077. This lets you be a cyber criminal in a cyberpunk world. The city of Night City is just ripe with opportunity for all types of criminal shenanigans. You can just be an absolute badass, do whatever you want, drive whatever you want, kill whoever you want in this world. As much as this game launched in a pretty rough state, at this point, with the DLC and the expansions and everything, Cyberpunk 2077 is just an awesome world to live and explore it. Now at number 2, the Mafia series. 1, 2, and 3 all have their own unique vibes. With the first game being old-timey with old cars and Tommy guns and bank robberies, the second game feeling a little bit more like The Godfather in the late 30s, 40s, and Mafia 3 being set in New Orleans. These games give you an open world to roam around in, and there are often some side activities, but it's not really just about open world busy work. These games, specifically Mafia 1 and 2, really just try and focus on storytelling with great, memorable characters and some incredible, memorable moments and set pieces. They're just great games to play through for the experience of just really feeling like a mafia guy. The games wear their influences on their sleeve. You can tell what type of movies they're watching, but they feel like their own fully fleshed out things. The remake of Mafia 1 from a few years back, Mafia Definitive Edition, I think is nothing short of incredible. It is absolutely a must play. And Mafia 2 as well is really, really cool with great music, characters I absolutely love, and a solid ending. 3 is a bit more divisive, but I definitely think it's got enough going on to keep it interesting and keep it fresh. And now there's Mafia the Old Country coming soon. Out of a lot of games on this list, we talked about a lot of games that are like dead franchises, but I'm glad Mafia is still kicking.
Program aren't gonna thank us for this. 3 crates down. How many motors were at the exchange? 4, 5, maybe. You know what him? He's called for more.
Now down at number 1, of course, you guessed it, it's Grand Theft Auto, the whole series. These games really did pioneer the open world crime game thing. Were they the ones to invent it? No, but they completely popularized it and made it so good that it felt like nobody else could compete. Grand Theft Auto 3 really kick things off, and from there the rest is history, obviously. And now here we are, still looking towards Grand Theft Auto 6, just begging for it to release. People love open world crime hijinks so much, and so much of that is because of Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. These games were absolutely legendary for the degree of freedom they gave players in an open world to really do whatever they want and be as much of a dick as they want. want, to also just telling a really good and memorable story. They're fun to play, they're fun to cause chaos within, you can get endless hours out of them, and that's why they're absolutely legendary. Those are 20 of some of the best open world crime games of all time. We did have 2 other ones that we had to include in a bonus section here. The first is Contraband Police, if you're more into that police simulator crime type of thing. Also, The Precinct, a kind of 80s noir thriller, open world crime thing where you're a police officer, but you go from like beat cop to detective, and there's a lot you can do here. Anyway, like I said, those are 20 games. We gave you a lot to think about, a lot to ponder, and maybe some new games to play. So if you like this video, clicking the like button helps us out. Let us know in the comments what you're up to, what you're playing, if you're getting into any chaos in any of these games. But that's really it for us. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.